Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Last First Date Radio, featuring interviews with experts in dating, relating, and mating in midlife. And now, here's your host, Sandy Weiner.
Hello, everybody. This is Sandy, and I am the founder and Chief Love Officer at lastfirstdate.com. I want to thank you for tuning in to Last First Date Radio, an acclaimed show about achieving healthy, off-the-charts love in the second half of life. We have a great show coming up for you today. I'm going to be speaking with nurse practitioner, sex therapist, and sexual wellness counselor Maureen Ryan about dating and sex and why they don't go hand in hand. Now, some of you may be thinking, whoa, wait a minute, I can't have sex when I'm dating? Well, stay tuned and you'll learn the answer and why Maureen feels the way she does. As a dating coach, I do advocate for women to value themselves first, and sometimes that means keeping your legs closed and your eyes wide open. I think that we often lose ourselves in sex, and you don't want to make big mistakes that lead to heartache. I have seen way too many women and men get involved too quickly with the wrong people, and sex makes you a little bit stupid because you can't think straight when your hormones are going crazy. So we'll talk more about that when we dive into the topic in a little bit. I just wanted to give you a heads up that if you don't yet have a copy of my free guide about the top 3 mistakes that midlife daters make in dating and relationships, you can go to my website right now and grab a copy. Just go to lastfirstdate.com and you can sign up on my homepage. You'll also be getting updates on the radio shows every week and all that's going on at lastfirstdate.com, including something that I'm super excited about. It's coming up very soon. In less than a month, I am going to be hosting my very first live retreat. It is 2.5 days here in Stamford, Connecticut, where my home office is, and it's the Woman of Value Live Retreat. This is for women who want to attract a really high-value man, and the first step is to value yourself, and that is a huge mission of mine, is to help women value themselves more, know their standards, know how to create safe boundaries for themselves, both verbally and physically, and to let go of past pain, past relationships that are getting in your way, to learn how to understand and also to appreciate men, because we often see them through the same lens as we see ourselves or our girlfriends, and men are not hairy women, as Alison Armstrong says. The Last First Date Live Retreat is going to help you love yourself first so that you can glow and radiate that love out in the dating world. The last day of the retreat on Friday, November 4th, we are going to have my colleague, Scarlett DeBeese, who is an image consultant and stylist, and she's going to help you to perfect the outside, and I'm going to help you with the inside. So she's going to help you look your best, feel your best, and it's going to be amazing. So we only have 20 tickets altogether, and it's filling up quickly. So if you want to grab your ticket, go to lastfirstdate.com/women-value-live-retreat. That's women-value-live-retreat. And now for our special guest today. Her name is Maureen Ryan, and she's a nurse practitioner, sex therapist, and sexual wellness counselor. In her private practice, she treats individuals and couples with intimacy concerns and sexual dysfunctions. She has a doctorate in nursing practice, and she's licensed as both an adult health nurse practitioner and a women's health nurse practitioner. Maureen received her training as a sex therapist from the Florida Sex Institute in West Palm Beach, and she is certified sexuality counselor and a certified health and wellness coach. Join us now as Maureen and I discuss why dating and sex do not go hand in hand. Welcome to the show, Maureen.
Hi, thanks, Sandy. I'm happy to be here and to talk about this topic. I think it's going to be very interesting.
I'm interested. So let's start with the benefits of waiting to have sex. What are some of the benefits that you feel?
Well, I think that when people wait, they take the time to be intentional and think about what it is that they really want to create in the relationship. And in order to have a really fulfilling sexual relationship, you need to allow yourself to be vulnerable. And in order to be vulnerable, you have to be in a position in a relationship where you can trust your partner. And trust takes time to build. And along with trust comes time where you get to know one another and you build that bond so that when you do become more intimate, the trust is already there. So in order to really have a good sexual relationship, a woman has to be able to relax and trust her partner, and that takes time to build.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And I remember years ago I had a client who had just started working with me. She hadn't been with a man in about 10 years, really hadn't dated since her divorce. And she did not listen to me when I told her not to have sex right away. And she had sex with somebody she had dated maybe once. And she said, well, I'm casual. It's fine. I'm really not invested. I'm fine with it. I'm just really miss having sex. But the next day when he didn't call her, she was devastated. And so a lot of people think that they can be casual. And when you start releasing those hormones, it's not so easy to be casual. So can you speak to the hormones that get released and what happens in the body that makes you not be able to be rational after sex?
Yeah. It's that friends with benefit relationship that some people have. And I really don't believe that it's possible for a lot of people to do that. Because what happens is when you have sex with somebody and you're intimate and you touch them and you're kissing and if you do have intercourse and you have an orgasm, you release a lot of oxytocin. Oxytocin is a bonding hormone. It's what keeps couples together. And so when you're touching somebody, your body is releasing that, and an attachment does form. And that's one of the reasons why, like your friend who had sex so early, she was vulnerable. And when people have sex too early, it causes a lot of fear and insecurity. Is he going to call me? Is he not going to call me? Just feeling insecure and doubting. And it puts people in a vulnerable place. So that's another that's why I think it's important to wait, to really build that trust.
Yeah, so when you say wait, let's talk about timing, unless you had something else to add to that. I think I cut you off there.
Oh, that's okay. Timing. Okay, so I guess it's I think people need to be honest with themselves, and I think that they need to really think about what it is that they want to create and what are their values and what are their needs, and start from that place. And so when people say that they just want to, that they're just going to hook up or they just want to have sex, that's a different story. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about people who want to build a relationship that is going to turn into something that's committed and long-term. And so in order to do that, again, I think it's important to be intentional every step of the way, because that's how you create what it is that you want with your intention. And also steering and moving the relationship in the direction that you desire. And so waiting, well, I think if you want to have good sex, I think there's a lot of benefit to waiting, because when people start to have sex too early or too quickly, oftentimes they move into that mode of a sexual encounter that's kind of linear. That's like step 1, 2, 3, 4. And what I mean by that, that's just say kiss, hug, oral sex, intercourse, orgasm, and that's it. And it's very male. It's a very male model, which is, I'll say, focused on the penis. And when that happens, things move fast. But when you slow it down and you take intercourse off the table, then you have time to really get to know each other physically. So there's more time spent touching, spent kissing, learning about each other's body, slowing it down and really enjoying the sensual experience. So that's those are my thoughts.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So it's interesting that you say this is a male model, the linear model. Men are very linear.
Right.
And, one of the things I teach women is the difference between men and women, and it's true. I think a lot of women believe that when they try to slow a man down, the man becomes disinterested. So this is becoming more and more of a concern in the online dating world, where men are asking questions about sex from in a text or an email before they even talk. And I think what's happening in men's minds, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but what's happening in men's minds is they're concerned that a woman who might be menopausal would not be that interested in sex. Or they've had experiences where they've waited for a while to connect sexually and the sex wasn't good. So they want to know right up front, like, give me the last page of the book before we even get involved, so I'll know if I'm going to waste my time or not. And it's really not very, to me, it's really, not a great way to approach relationships or sex, especially not with women, because women are now not trusting. They're feeling unsafe. You don't develop the sexual bond until you've created a bond. And, what is the definition of good sex or bad sex? And, it just raises so many questions. So women complain all the time. Men are asking me to have sex right away. They want to know if I'm sexually active. How do I talk to a man about this without being, demanding or nasty or, shutting him down? So how would you approach this situation?
Well, I think that I think there are a lot of men who learn about sex through porn, and what they see in porn is what really turns women off, which is very much focused on friction, and there's no heart involved. And I think it's up to women to teach men. And I think when we teach them the way that a woman wants to be made love to, we are opening up their eyes to something that they never knew that was possible, that is much, I'll say for many, much more rewarding and satisfying and really connecting. And I think that when women can teach them to slow down and to savor the experience, you're opening their eyes to a whole new way of making love. Mm. And so I think that women, also need to educate themselves as to what's possible, because I think there's a lot of people out there who are having sex that's just okay, or it's not that great, but what we want, most people want, is to really have great sex, phenomenal sex. And so what are the ingredients of that? And when people talk about the best when they talk about the best sexual experiences of their life, they don't talk about intercourse and orgasm. They talk about this sense of presence, a sense of being in their body and really feeling and being in their senses. So, touching, smelling, taste, visual. They're not in their head, they're in their body. So being very focused on what's happening in the moment, actually getting lost, into this sense of timelessness, where they just are really immersed in the experience. And that's what makes phenomenal sex. And I think that as women, we need to teach men how to connect in that way. So if you want to have a phenomenal sex life, think about what it is that you want. What is it? What does your heart want? What speaks to your heart? And then what turns you on. And when you bring those two things together, you can achieve experiences that are very meaningful and very connected. What really brings us together.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, I think that, but this is just to go back to how to talk to a man who brings this up right away. So, how would she address it, in your opinion, if a man wants to talk about sex even right away?
Well, everybody has a different level of talking about sex. So, boundaries are important, but I think also if you want to develop a relationship that's meaningful, it's being honest about what it is your needs and your values are. And say they go out on a date and somebody's talking about sex in a way that's making them feel uncomfortable, being honest and saying, I don't know you that well, and that's something that I really value and I cherish and I hold as sacred. And we are not at that place yet, but if you care about them, but I'd like to get to know you more. I'd like to spend more time with you. And I think that the more strength that the relationship has, or the more connected you feel, then the more open someone's going to be. And also just explaining to men that, in order for me to be able to really open sexually, my heart has to be touched. I need to feel connected. I need to feel safe. I need to feel like you really care about me, that you are very present with me, and all of those things. So I think that those things, being honest and truthful about what is really meaningful to you and what it is, what it is that ultimately you want to experience, and then guiding and, really moving the direction intentionally in the way that you want.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like the language of that your heart has to be touched. That's really a nice way to put it.
Yeah, to be open.
Yeah, I think that people often are afraid to be open, and they're afraid that what they're going to say is going to be judgmental or harsh, and it's such a common thing to be asked these questions, which was really shocking to me when it started to happen. And it's like, if you know this is going to happen, if you know that men are going to ask these questions right away, then be prepared with a really positive boundary to answer that also is inclusive and not shutting a man down.
Right, and also teaching them or sharing with them about what you desire, and that so often people just focus about, or men in general, and sometimes focus just on intercourse. That's what they're thinking about, but there is so much more, that the whole body is a sensual organ, and the skin and savoring every every touch and the connection that occurs when you look into somebody's eyes, and you really feel that energetic opening and connection occurring. That is what makes something really, I'll say, delicious. And teaching and letting somebody know that's possible, and sharing that, and then they get on board, and they get, they're curious, and the imagination starts to come into play, and that imagination is what really fuels desire. And that's another thing. If you really want a relationship, if this is something that you want long term, and this is savoring and anticipating and letting the imagination wander. That's what builds that desire, and then that desire brings them back for more.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really true, and a little bit of mystery, and it's also how to keep the relationship going once sex can become boring. But so let's talk about some simple steps that people can take to become a better partner. I think you have an analogy for that. The word pie, easy as a pie. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the acronym is API, and it's actually, because I'm a nurse, it's how we used to do nursing assessments. We assess, plan, implement, and evaluate. So I would do a lot of on teaching with nurses, and that's why I came up with that. But the A stands for the attitude. What attitude are you showing up with? One of being accepting and non-judgmental and open-minded and willing to see what's possible. So an attitude. And again, sexually, we want people to be non-judgmental and to be accepting of whatever, of where you are and where your partner is, because that's what keeps people open. And they feel accepted and they feel seen and not judged. And then P is presence. So present in the moment, being immersed in whatever it is that however it is that you're interacting with your partner. If you're talking, if you're out somewhere, being there fully. Your mind is in some place in the past or anticipating something in the future, but you are fully present. And that's what makes for great sex. And then the I is intentional. So what is it that I want to create? So if I'm going to go out tonight and on this date, you think about it. What do I want to experience? I want laughter. I want to get to know them better. I want my heart to open. I want, whatever it is that you want to create. And then encouragement. So telling our partners what we like. And if you want more of something, you've got to encourage. And people are insecure oftentimes when it comes to being a lover. And so when you tell your partner verbally or non-verbally, just with your body language, that's good. I love when you do that. It makes my heart feel open. It makes me whatever, just encouraging each other. Then they know what it is that you like, and you're intentionally creating what it is that you want to experience.
Yeah, I like that you keep using the word intentionally creating, because I think that so many people think they have no control over most of the dating and relationship experience, that it's up to someone else, and they don't really have a lot of control over how a man feels, how a woman feels. So it's an important concept that we can intentionally create, and a lot of it has to do with self-knowledge, because you've brought that up many times, and knowing who we are and what we need and what we want and being able to express it.
Right. And really, you said this, and this is what it sounds like your workshop is on, is really getting to know who you are, what it is, and really being grounded in who you are. And that is, oftentimes people do not enjoy experiences because they're in their partner's head. They're judging, what do I look like, what are they thinking, and they're not in their body experiencing what it is that's occurring. So it's really important to be able to go in and experience yourself from within, and then being able to share that part of yourself or to let go with your partner. And again, that creates trust. I mean, you need trust for that. But a lot of times people, they just are so caught up in what I should be doing that they're not experiencing themselves in a way that is possible as an erotic, sensual, sexual woman.
And people focus so much on the externals, like I have to be a certain body type, and I can't have cellulite, and I my boobs have to be perky even if I'm 65, and
Right.
it's really not about all those things. It's about so much more about the inside, and how we feel about ourselves reflects on the outside.
Right. And also I think it's helpful to come from a place within. So thinking about not looking at what you're doing from an observer, but feeling it from within and feeling that energetic movement and connection that occurs from within.
Mm.
And that's what, a lot of, some of the people that I work with, they may have sexual problems maybe because of a medical condition or treatment for cancer or whatever it may be. And so they feel like, well, it's over. My sex life is over. And then they find something else. They find a way to connect with their partner and themselves that is sensual, that is deep, that is meaningful, that is expansive. So when they're with their partner and they feel, their heart is open to them, and I keep saying this, the heart opening, but that's really a key component. And when that is open, there's a flow between the two, and it just expands, and amazing things happen in that space.
Mhm. Yeah, I actually had a guy on my show a couple of years ago who had cancer and became impotent after his cancer and after his treatments, and he discovered a whole new way to be sensual and enjoy sex, and that's kind of what he's making his living on now, is to teach people how to enjoy sex no matter what. And I think I think so much of dating and love is an inside job. And so what you're saying is really resonant for me, as well as for so many others who get caught up in all the other stuff, And I think you can either limit yourself or you can expand the way that you feel and think about all of this.
Right. What's helpful too that I want to mention is that people if you think about left brain, right brain, when people, we tend to live most of our life, or not a lot of it, in our left brain, thinking, making out lists, what should I do next? But good sex happens when we quiet down that left side of our brain and we move into the right side, which is our feeling, our emotional brain, and that is a skill that people need to learn how to transition from one state to another. And so doing things, external things and internal things to help you switch gears is really helpful. And music helps people do that. It can really quiet the mind down and take them into a place where they're feeling, because music speaks to the soul. And that really helps people move into a different space. It almost becomes like a dance between the two. And and women in wanting to create what it is that they want, when they learn or when they allow themselves to move into this, and they start the dance within themselves, their partner, they're guiding them, and then they start to follow. So it's a whole new approach. It's a whole new approach.
Yeah.
It is so much more fulfilling than what might happen on a one night, ending up in bed and then getting scared and fearful and feeling, all our old stuff, childhood stuff, abandonment issues, things like that, fear of intimacy, and then, he heads for the hills and you never hear from him again.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that was my life story. In fact, my long-term boyfriend from high school through college, kind of on and off for about 7 years, we never talked about loving each other. We never talked about being exclusive, but he was definitely my first love. He was the first man I had sex with when I was 21. I mean, it was an amazing experience, but I always felt insecure with him. And as I was divorcing, I actually reached out to him and said, I need answers to a lot of questions, and can you answer these questions for me? And I said, was I your only one? Was I your first? Did you really love me? I just need to know these things. And he said, absolutely. I was terrible at expressing all of this, and I'm so sorry. And you were, heart-pounding love. It was an amazing experience for him, but I didn't know, and we didn't know how to talk about it. And so I think it's just so important to speak up and to know who you are, know what you want, and that's one of the best parts about dating when you're older is that you actually can do these things.
And one thing, it brings up another point, is that, men, there's a lot of men who don't feel secure as lovers, and they get anxiety. And when you slow it down and the focus is not on is their penis going to work or not, then everything it's a much more enjoyable experience when they're not, measuring is it going to be a success or failure. Because when they can stop thinking about that, then actually the body relaxes, the blood flows, and there are no issues. And also, slowing down this process, there's a lot of men who have a problem called premature ejaculation. So they ejaculate too quickly. And so when you learn to slow down this process, they're learning skills that help them to keep an arousal at a lower threshold so it doesn't trigger ejaculation. So relaxation, relaxing the body, keeping the eyes open, looking at your partner, breathing slowly together, all of those things can really help diminish sexual dysfunctions that occur with men, especially anxiety performance.
Yeah, people have terrible performance anxiety, both men and women, but in men in particular, the premature ejaculation or totally unable to have an erection happens
they get anxious
a lot as we get older, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's anyway. There's a lot more we could talk about, and unfortunately we are out of time. But thank you so much for sharing this important topic and your wisdom today. And please let us know how our listeners can find out more about you, Maureen.
Well, my website is mbcah.com, and I can be emailed at mryan@mbcah.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and thank you, everybody, for listening in today, and I hope you go on your last first date very soon, but don't have sex before you're really building trust. Have a great day.